there's different ways you can do it, but I don't think in the 11th hour you're teaching them to row. You're sticking to a plan, and you're either saying, well done, you did it, or you didn't really do what you said you did. And that was the coaching running into it. And especially as I was coaching 3 or 4 boats, you definitely turn into a manager. But there's a time in the year where you've got to work hard. You've got to work hard. And I don't think you should be trying to coach hard in the last couple of weeks. It just, give the crew confidence that they know it, they're ready, and we're just getting them ready for the fight.
Hey, what is up? Welcome to Last Stroke Counts. Today's guest is the high-performance men's coach of Leander Club, Ali Brown. Please welcome to the show. Good morning, Ali.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in. What did I say, like third or fourth in the new studio now?
Yeah, I think
done many.
That's quite a few, yeah.
That's good. Nice to show you what we're doing.
Yeah, I love it. Love the studio.
A little bit more than what you thought we might have, but yeah, it's good. It's good. Again, like you've been on our list for sure. We've been, I said before, slightly aware that we're trying not to become the Leander show completely, as much as we love the club and it's still our club. But yeah, spacing it out, like having a bit of gap. And obviously we had Rossi on before, but it'll be awesome to speak to you. I know Pete's excited about getting into a bit more sculling.
Yeah, definitely. Not a sweeper at heart. I don't mind sweeping, but sculling for it's not really. Everyone who's really about it knows it. So,
right. So just briefly, that'll be interesting. Just shout out, I guess, how you got started and how you got into coaching.
Well, I'm very fortunate that I'm one of 5, and my a little village or town called Bradford-on-Avon, and I was taught to row by my dad. And the Bradford-on-Avon Rowing Club was basically our life. Everyone down there, my mum even rowed. She won her novices. So I owe everything to them, really, for making me love the sport. And I think that loving the sport, is probably a big part of my personality, because I don't really believe you can do the sport unless you love it, especially when you get the non-perfect days like we had at Henley. But when you're trying to put all the miles together, you've got to really love the sport, and you've got to love the pursuit of it rather than just in the chase of the results. It's got to be a product of a lot of fun as growing up, getting kids in boats. That's where I'm at, really.
You did row to like a decent level. You spent a bit of time as a junior at Leander. I read like first junior medalist.
Yeah. So I did a lot of single sculling at Bradford-on-Avon because I had no one else to row with. So I did the nationals and won quite a lot of those growing up. And then I moved to Leander when I was 16, and I was the first junior world medalist from Leander. And then I moved straight into under 23s and senior stuff. Had an interesting period. I know Pete's got questions on this. I had to drop quite a lot of weight to be a lightweight rower from being the bulky junior I was. I was basically square when I was 5'10" and 88 kilos at Junior Worlds, and then fast forward about 3 months, I was at a trial and I was 75 kilos. And I didn't do it correctly. I'm not going to be on here giving people advice how to lose the weight, because I'd have probably been rowing for a lot longer if I had done it properly.
Well, so firstly, a square shape for a body is like the perfect sculling shape, right? Isn't it? So can you tell everyone how you managed to achieve such a big weight loss? This is not a North End.
Oh my God, we've gone into this. Well, the obvious one was eating a lot less. Pete's dying to hear this story, but basically I used to crave just feeling full up. So I'd eat apples and I'd have loads of fizzy water. So I just had a crave that feeling of being really full. So whenever I was hungry, I'd just eat a couple of apples and down some fizzy water and then go training again.
I've watched Kieran Emery, shout out if he's listening, do the same thing. It was like strong junior, but was kind of in that middle weight, and under 23 they wanted him. So the first year under 23s, we did it in heavyweight 8, and he was like slowly coming down. And he needed to take more weight. And then he was like, yeah, no, I've just got this new thing now where I just won't eat anything for like 2 days. And then I can have like a tub of Ben and Jerry's. And I was like, don't think that's what they're after. Yeah. And then, he would just like eat just a bag of Haribo and nothing else on like a day of training camp. Like you're just like, oh, this is not right.
Yeah. Dave Curry, the shipmate, he's the best man at a wedding. And he put a good part of his best man speech towards the way Sally lost weight. And it's roaring laughter from the crowds. I live with Dave, and he was just, I used to keep him amused all the time.
Yeah. Well, it was effective and it worked. So
sort of worked.
Yeah.
Sweat down so we could have a night out on a Saturday.
Yeah.
So what, did you get involved in coaching before you sort of finished your rowing? Was that something you wanted to do? Or?
So to support the training, we were on lottery funding and stuff. I'm very grateful for that. But it wasn't enough to totally live. So everyone had afternoon part-time jobs and stuff. So I had numerous places. I was coaching a little bit at Ship Lake and a bit at Borlase, and that turned into something else we'll probably allude to. But there was jobs in the afternoon, just a bit of coaching. But I definitely knew that I wanted to be a coach. The penny hadn't totally dropped that I wanted to actually do it yet, because it was just a means to make some money at the moment. But as soon as I retired in 2005, I knew pretty quickly that I didn't want to, just get an office job, or it was just not me. I knew that I had a passion, and to be honest, I actually think some of the best coaches are. I'm not saying I'm one of the best coaches, but I think some of the best coaches are the ones that are a little bit unsatisfied with their own rowing, because I used to do pretty well when I could be a bit heavier at 75 kilos. I'd go up and I'd do really well at the trials. Usually get selected into some very good boats. But as soon as I went down to 70, I was a chocolate teapot, and I realised that pretty soon that I couldn't really do it at 70 kilos. So I called it a really early. I was only 25 when I actually retired. I achieved quite a lot until that point, but I wanted to stay in sport. I knew it was a big part of what I wanted to do. I was actually part-time working at Sir William Borlase at the time, when I retired. And basically, with the support of my wife, who gave me a nudge that I should probably do it, I asked her to meet with the headmaster, and came up with, well, I think she should make me a director of rowing. And the conversation went, what's a director of rowing? And I just absolutely winged it. And unfortunately, he said, go on then, you can be our director of rowing. And so I hadn't really heard of one before then, but it sounded really good. And now they're everywhere.
Yeah.
And Borlase was amazing because one of the big things we did, they were rowing out of Leander Rowing Club at the time. And there were set times where Sir William Borlase could go rowing. They had about 4 boats in the boathouse. And say on a Saturday morning, for instance, Leander Rowing Club would go rowing at 7:30. Borlase were told when they could boat, and they were told when they could come in, because the big thing is we can't get in the way of anyone else. In the nicest possible way, and no criticism of Leander Rowing Club at all. Borlase were a little bit in the way. And so I knew instantly, to grow the club, to grow the school, we needed to stand on our own 2 feet, really. So we, with support of some other people like Richard Bennett, who was really influential, we moved into Longwood, which is the tower down the road. And then we realised pretty soon we didn't have a lot of money. We had some boats. I think we'd borrowed some racks, but we had no changing room. We had no facilities. We had nowhere to keep the place. So he got some caravans of some of a travelling group, and it was really funny. And Dave Curry and I, because Dave was working part time with me, we got these caravans and we just gutted them completely. We had like a sledgehammer, and we took the kitchens out of them. We took everything out. And literally, it was the most fun you could ever have. We were down at Longridge every day, just demolishing stuff, and we hollowed them out. We built some blade racks in there, We got another one, and we even made a little crew room, and we put a sofa in there, and we put a carpet in there, and then we built a little track going down to the river, and it's actually still there now. And I see it now. There's still a track, and the GB team train there sometimes. They're like walking down the little track that Dave and I built, and we got a pontoon. I think the pontoon was big. The pontoons are expensive, I think. Anyway, so we bought one of them. That's still there now. Yeah, it's awesome. But I think Borlase are trying to get a boathouse now, and I think that they've got permission and the funding, and it's amazing. And they've merged with a lot of the Marlow schools, RGS and Great Marlow School, I believe. And yeah, it looks like that era is almost coming to an end where they have a boathouse, but that was mental. We started with nine rowers, and it really was a group of say it's not offended, but there was a group of nerdy little kids. As I said, we want to row, and the core of that group, who are definitely not nerdy now, I don't mean to be mean, but like that group, just we went through. And we turned that into quads that we were winning national schools, and we were winning J15 quads, J16 quads, J18 quads, and then when I moved on, Dave Curry took over, and then Robin Dow went on and took it to the next level, and the whole Borlase thing just went massive.
Yeah, definitely. There's that time, where Borlase was just all over the junior scene, like winning, getting a whole crew. Was it 3 or actually the whole crew into Junior Worlds?
Yeah,
which is not common.
Yeah.
And that's why I love to hear about these stories, because I think people think like, oh my God, Borlase have come from nowhere. How did they do this? And it's like, they didn't come from nowhere. They came from 10 years before that, having a coach who's willing to go and smash up a caravan to make a crew room and dig a dirt road in because you didn't have there's so many other things that are in it. And I think that's what I find sort of interesting to find out. Like, I think one for now, Hinksey. Oh my God, where've Hinksey come from? It's like someone's been working really hard in the background for a number of years, and I think it takes a long time. It takes like the pyramid, right? We're talking, right? Like this, getting that big base in the bottom, and then you can kind of take it on. We discussed a little bit before about like the importance of building a crew and a system. What were some of the things that you did at Borlase that helps kind of build that base?
It was so raw. We didn't have enough. We wanted to do match quads. We didn't have enough boys to do that. And we had some really talented girls, so we just used to mix the crews. And Dave and I used to think of the hardest session we could do, and we'd make the guys do it. And they would just always take the bait. It was amazing. I think we went on training camp. It was just amazing. We'd just have an idea and do it. And to be honest, there was no grown-up around to tell me it wasn't a good idea. It's like, we're going on training camp. And we would go there and say, and we did a 30-minute rate 30, and we did that in Longridge, and they finished it, and immediately Dave and I had 45 minutes. and we used to train so hard. It was amazing. It was just the camaraderie was brilliant. Obviously, we were very lucky to have a group of awesome young students that have now all gone on to great success. And actually, one of those people was John O'Clegg, who went to the Olympics. Mm-hmm. And John O'Clegg was one of those nerdy kids who was one of the 9 when I started. And to make an Olympian out of that group was pretty insane.
Yeah.
And others in that group, Matt Bedford went on to do under 23s, and if I'm missing somebody, I'm sorry, but basically a lot of people went on to do some amazing stuff from that. And the stuff Dave Curry did when he took over from me as the director of rowing, he took it to a whole new level as well. And then Robin Dow took it to an even higher level winning Henley and stuff. So, but yeah, it was cool. It was a cool time. That was pretty raw.
Yeah, I can't think of a better moment as a coach when like one of your underlings basically makes it to the biggest stage in the world and goes to the Olympics. And I think for me, it's actually it's really interesting to hear that you set up that entire system, because when I first started at Leander just 10 years ago, Borlase were our basically biggest rivals. They were like
Henley Regatta twice in a row, etc. And like you said, like you might have thought they came from nowhere, but like actually, it's pretty insane to hear how that started. And obviously, you coach Henley, and now Dave Parry is shipwrecked, and Robin, rest in peace. But he's gone on to do amazing stuff and then coach with the Swiss team. So I think looking back on like everything that you've had to like work through in order to get Borlase up to what you did, that must fill you with pride.
Yeah, it does. And they actually named the boat after me, and I went to see the boat, and because they haven't got a boathouse, it's the dirtiest boat. Actually, one of the GB guys sent me a photo of the boat. I don't know if it's an honour or not. They called it the poo boat, called Ali Pound. It was like 15 years old, and it's never lived in a boathouse. I think it's bent, but it's called Ali Pound. But I think that's quite fitting. I quite like it. I don't think my name should be on a perfect end packer. I think that's much more fitting.
Humble beginning. I got my school's named a single after me, and I thought that's amazing. And I went down to the boathouse, and it's like a proper lightweight single.
Was really?
There's no way I'm ever getting it.
I like it. I like it. No?
Yeah. It's a real like kids lightweight single. Still awesome. Yeah. So, what was the decision to kind of move on from?
Well, the obvious, I think, the obvious was that we didn't have a boathouse, and I think we got things up and running, and my best mate Dave needed a job as well, so I thought it was a good time for me to take a new challenge, and it freed up the role there. Not that he needed any help, but it just was a natural time to move on, really. As fun as it is coaching in the rain, coming in, not having anywhere to even get changed, sitting in the rain for an hour and then going back out in the rain. Kind of wanted some boathouse and all the things that maybe come with those top jobs like Oakman and stuff like that. So I went to Bedford Modern School. Apart from having the money of being a private school, it was very similar to Borlase. So it was very much copy repeat. I took over a program at that moment in time. There was previous where they had some good results, but I took over at that moment in time, and it wasn't a high standard of rowing. We're talking, pretty low in the trial bill, and there wasn't many people rowing. And over the next few years, we turned the numbers from probably about 50 to about 200. I was helped by the introduction of it went co-ed, so we had a girls rowing program as well. But we very quickly started to win the child bill, and then we turned it into a championship school, making championship finals, and we had some women's crews doing really well, and one of the girls won women's Henley, qualifying, doing really well. So the school really went to a pretty cool place over the time I was there for 7 years. But that was a really pivotal time for me, because I kind of just, all my coaching was just about the love of the sport and woohoo, let's have fun. When I said about Borlase, it was like there was no adult around to tell me, don't do this, don't do that. And things like running a budget, well, they had no money anyway. So there was no, whereas I learned quite a lot about, the email world, going into the common room, mixing with the other teachers, and just doing the job a bit more professionally. Had a director of sport, called Patrick Jerem, absolute legend. He taught me a lot of stuff, outside the rowing sporting world. He was big in his rugby. So no, that was a really important time for me. I learned how to really work in a team.
A bit more level of professionalism.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, it sounds like you learned a lot from Borlase, from just doing that trial and everything.
Yeah, I remember loading a trailer at Borlase on my own in the rain, and I had to put a Cox 4 on my own. Nice. And it was raining. It was about 7 at night. I managed to get the stern on. And then, so imagine no one else around. I've got the stern on, and then I'm trying to lift the rest of the boat on, and I've got my face lifting a Cox 4 on my head. And then just where you don't want to have one of the bolts sticking out of the boat is literally where I would put the weight onto my back. So I managed to get this Cox 4 on and put it on the rack. And I think that was the moment where I was like, I think Dave would be good at this. I'm going to go somewhere with a boatman.
Yeah.
Oh, that's epic. I was like, there's no way someone could lift a 4 on there on the trailer, but there you go. Just did. I thought taking the double on is impressive by yourself.
I didn't have a choice. That's the thing. Like the kids had to race the next day, but it's cool. Yeah, you learn from that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. You learn when you have to.
And it's a story, isn't it?
Yeah. And then with Bedford, obviously doing, like you said, going from child build to champ pace, sweep rowing. So there wasn't much sweep before this. Did you sweep in your own career, or were you mostly sculling?
Yeah, I did. It was like in the lightweight 4 and stuff, and I did do that. I would regard myself as more of a sculler coming through, only because I didn't have anyone else to row with, a single sculler. So yes, Bedford Modern, I started coaching sweep, and we were very successful in the 8s and the conference 4s, and many athletes selected, many athletes selected for junior worlds, and so yeah, you just pick it up pretty quickly. But I think Ryan's right.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
there's certain simplicity about it that you still got to put the blade in where you reach. Being pretty fit, pull hard.
Yeah. It's not a huge difference for sure. So at this point, I wanted to kind of ask. Obviously, you're kind of deep into a coaching career now. What was it about coaching that still kind of made you coming back? It was a different thing to rowing. I think there's only some rowers who love rowing and then want to love coaching, and there's some that do, some that don't. What do you think it was for you about it?
I get a huge amount of enjoyment seeing people love the sport as much as I do. The love of the sport is everything for me. If the best paid job in the world was putting a child in the water for the first time and seeing the smile on their face, that would be the job for me. The top end trying to win Henley and stuff, and the top end trying to get people to Olympics. Yeah, I love that, but I don't love it as much as the moment you introduce the sport to somebody and they come off going, that was amazing, I want to do that again. And then you know that you've got them hooked. And then, you're just getting that sense for how much training you can do without it starting to be not fun.
Mm.
And then you gauge it, and then they love the sport. So then they start to put the pieces together that, okay, so if I do this a bit more, I'll get faster. And then they start to want to do a bit more training. And then they'll go, well, do I have to wait till Saturday to go out? Would anyone be at the club if I came down tomorrow? And I'm like, yeah, I'll be here. And then,
yeah, I love that.
And then it builds.
Yeah.
We used to have, the optional sculling mornings.
Yeah.
Anyone can come down. It's optional. There's no pressure. Before you know it, you've got 20 kids down there for the optional sculling morning. And they'll say, how far have we got to do? Nothing. You can row around the corner and come in if you want, or you can start and play. There's no training program for the optional sculling morning.
Yeah.
Before you know it, the kids are doing like 12K before school, and they should love it. And try to balance in the boat, and all things just be silly. When they get bored of rowing, they can just, whatever, I can stand up. That's for me. That's the love of the sport. I used to go 1 of 5. I alluded to at the beginning, and I used to go out sculling side by side with my brothers, and pretty soon into every session we'd stop and do some starts, because that's just way more fun.
Yeah.
So just learn to love the sport before you take it seriously. I see quite a lot of people now, not a criticism at all. If you at the start program, I think that there's an emphasis on training and being, I'm going to be an Olympian before you get those bits that I've just said. And I just think everyone's just got to learn to love the sport before they try and train really hard, because if you don't love it, right, you've got to love it.
Yeah, I completely. You're absolutely winning when your athletes are asking you to do more. You don't have to be like, "Come on, you need to set up this training." And I completely agree. The most enjoyable thing about coaching is when you see that spark in their eyes when they've caught the bag.
Yeah,
completely.
And when they come and ask you to do an extra session, you're like,
"Got ya." Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's fun. I totally agree with you. Same at school. It was all about going out in the singles. We had sort of I guess about 8K from the boathouse to the top. About halfway up, there was quite a shallow beach on the inside corner. We just go and beach our singles and just get out and fuck about, or just wait, because it's kind of around the corner. So get out quick, early, wait around the corner, and then as someone comes around the corner, just be like, scream at them. We used to have a lot of back down races.
Yes, yeah.
The backing down race, or just a drifting race.
Yeah.
Like, right, from here to here, we're going to see who drifts the furthest. Like, I agree with you. Like, it's a double edge, isn't it? The sport's got so amazing that the level, like, at Henley is incredible. But I feel like we talk to a lot of people who say the same thing. It's like, we got into the sport because it was fun. And, like, there's not a lot of fun.
Yeah,
at times, I think we could do better.
We still do. On training camp. Look, just this May we did 500k in I think it was 13 days. Yeah, it's pretty disgusting, right? And we did it all at the right pace. So in the quad, we tried to do it all around the 146 mark, rating under 20, and we tried to limit the amount of warm up we did because we, as a sculling group, we wanted to like make a real point of doing the mileage, but doing the mileage at the right intensity as well. And there comes a time where you just think, right, these guys need a bit of fun. So we did once. The look on their face was awesome. I think it was Jack Keating, who's the bowman of the Prince of Wales squad. I said, right, everyone just undo their gates, and we're just going to row the next bit. And it's not fun going out on a night out, etc. It's not fun, all the things that you can do later in life, like after you finish your rowing. But in that moment, that made the next 4K really fun. And that was something that was like, he made us row our gates open, And I remember Ollie Costley. I love Ollie Costley. He's an absolute legend. He was just like, his sequencing wasn't quite where I wanted it. So I was like, Costa, I think it's really stressing you out having oars. So give them to me. So he then rowed the next bit, pretending he had oars. We're rowing, but the three others had their blades, and he was just rowing. I actually can send you a video of that one. That was quite funny. We do loads. Oh, make stuff up.
That's awesome. Yeah, like it doesn't have to be a full. It's just that one or two little things that can make a difference. Yeah. Like a little bit. Like that's really cool that you're doing that. Yeah,
but definitely, and it's also like hugely improving your technical ability if you can row a few K with your gates open, etc., and keep it controlled. Because to be honest, the top athletes, they probably don't even need the gates shut. It's just like a safety precaution and everything. But no, I'm glad to hear Costley's doing well. We were freshers at the same time.
Really?
At Newcastle, yeah. So like he's really like stepped on big time since then. So
I was going to say, did they keep the blades in for 4K then?
Yeah,
nothing popped out.
No, it's actually no. The guys were really surprised. Just when you do it, you've obviously got to be mindful of when you stop rowing, and hold it up. But no, it worked. I tell you, another exercise we did this year. We wanted to use our backs more. We had a phrase this year: "Backs don't blow." So really using the body weight of opening up with a big force. And it's Beachy's idea actually. We're like, how far can we move the boat by just the whole 8 or the whole 4 just going? And in Bagnolas, you've got the buoy line. So just seeing how many times going back and forwards it would take us to get the boat a buoy line. I think 2 buoy lines. Actually, can we do 250 without actually taking a stroke? But when you get the momentum and you get the timing of the backs, the boat can actually really travel. And it makes you realize, well, that's there for you anyway. So that was a big part. And we'll probably come to it later, but when both quads were in the middle of the race, we really did think about a lot of work we did at Borlase, at Bagnolas, the 500k, but the sequencing of the backs and all that repetition. I think if you look at our finals this year, that's why we dominated the middle of the race, because of the fitness, the sequencing and all that stuff. It just shone through in the middle of the race.
Oh, absolutely. Once you batted all those like habits in set, right? Well, even when you're barely conscious and like giving your all sending it, like that's all still embedded in. Like that's what Tom talked about with Brian Armstrong, teaching you how to do the out-sporting slide off. So
yeah, there's no replacement for miles. Like you can have all the telemetry in the world, but if you're not putting the miles in. Yeah, we the year we won the Thames Cup, Brian Armstrong, just separation was like the only thing. Like it's the only exercise.
Were you in the boat with Sachi?
Yeah. So
yeah,
like
he talks so much about the Thames Cup. He says that gap year he did was like the best thing ever. he said he was more excited when they won that than he was when he won in Rio.
Yeah. Yeah, it was an incredible project. There was a lot of setbacks, which obviously added to the win being a bit sweeter. But yeah, Brian I guess like all young kids come from different squads. So that separation, that double pause, and it was almost like that kind of Mr. Miyagi moment. Like, what are we doing here? Like, we're supposed to be at a high performance center. Like, we're just doing one exercise that's again and again and again. And you come later through into the race season, and that rhythm that you generate from having spent that time. And if we got it right and the plate 8 wasn't having a great day, we could have a fight with them, which was pretty awesome. But yeah, that was a cool year.
And then I also think like doing those types of exercises when you're not just doing rowing, but trying to see how much you can move the boat without putting the blades in. That's what particularly for me like made Leander really stand out from all the other training centers that I've been at, is because you're not just learning how to work efficiently and effectively and like really get into the biomechanics of how the boat actually moves and like how you can get every single extra bit of free speed that's available, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And look, we were fortunate enough to have the time as well. They have part-time jobs in the afternoon and stuff, but we are fortunate to have athletes, talented athletes with the time as well. This year with the 2 quad wins, we actually used the biomechanics in a slightly different way. I wanted this year to focus on how much the boat doesn't slow down between strokes. So the check on the boat. So I looked at a different part of the telemetry that I know we can produce the power, but how little can we slow the boat down between strokes? That was a big factor this year. That was kind of, you look at all the watts and stuff and the catch slip, finish slip. But this year, the big mission statement was keeping the boat moving.
Efficiency, yeah. We talked about that a lot, and especially with novices and stuff, when people aren't getting them laid out, and you're like, listen, you're putting everything in, you're working really hard, but you're stopping yourself.
Yeah.
Right? There's two things in it. You can add more, you can take less away.
Yeah.
Sam Mottram, he used to be a lightweight at Leander. He was sometimes he like take over like a junior coaching session, something like that with us, and then he was talking to us about exactly like not slowing the boat down in between strokes. And he was like, imagine a kick scooter. You can like really slam your legs down and like really kick it, etc. But you're going to be working really, really hard, and then you're probably not going to be going much faster than if you were just gently tapping it along and just not slowing it down at all. So that's another part of like rowing that I don't know if everyone utilizes it, but it certainly does make a difference.
Yeah. I mean, that's telemetry stuff as well, isn't it? Like, that's kind of the thing. We can get into that a little bit more. I wanted to mention, just before you got into Leander, you swapped places and took over from Dave. The student becomes the master kind of thing. That was at Abingdon for a couple of years.
Oh yeah. Sorry, So there was a really pivotal time when I was at Bedford Modern. Things were going really, really well, but there was an obvious thing that was that I needed to address, and that's when I retired from rowing. I went straight into becoming a director of rowing, and I was a director of rowing at Bedford Modern School as well. And I was just really aware that I hadn't learned from anyone. I'd always been the boss, and we were doing really well. We were making Champ 8 finals. But if I'm honest, I can say it now because I'm confident of where I've gone. I didn't really know how to fix it other than say, try harder. And I kind of used everything I knew from, I was saying stuff that coach said to me, and I was trying to reminisce. Oh, yeah, coaches used to do this with me, but I'd never really learned from anybody. So I took quite a big decision, and to actually go back a step. And actually, it's not relevant, but it sort of is a bit of a salary sacrifice as well, because up and coming young family house, the big deal. But I knew that if I wanted to be in the sport long term, I needed to have more substance to what I'm saying. There needed to be more knowledge. Otherwise, I'd always have that feeling of driving away from Henley, having lost, going, how are they so much faster than us? So I really wanted to go and be a student of the sport. It sounds cheesy, but I did. So I took that job at Abingdon School to work under Mark Earnshaw. Mark's obviously been to an Olympics, very knowledgeable. He taught me a lot about the training program, started to teach me about the telemetry and stuff. And then I went to, and then there was an opportunity to go to Leander. And there I carried on the exact thing, learning from Beachy, learning from Mark Banks. There was times I was learning from Jürgen Grobler as well. And I had so fortunate, but the mission statement was to learn, to be there and learn. Rossi was running the sculling group, and he moved over to the women. So he was really great helping me, understand how he made the quad so fast and stuff. I had a lot of people supporting me on my journey just to get more knowledge. And that was great for a few years. And then I was able to take more of a lead role being Matt's assistant. And it's not that I didn't need their support anymore, but I was sort of ready to do it myself a bit more. I always had the support of Beachy. But then we started to win in the quads. And then I started to get a bit more confident about what I was doing. Actually knew I was coming on here. And I started to reminisce a little bit, and I started to looking back at all the quad races. So we've won the five quads now in the last 4 years. We won the Prince of Wales 4 times in a row, and this year we won the Queen Mother doubly with the boat that would normally do the Prince of Wales. We went up to the Queen Mother and we gambled a little bit, and we did the Prince of Wales with essentially like a second boat, but they don't deserve to be called a second boat. They're very good athletes, but the GB team weren't there, so it was our opportunity on this Olympia year to step up. So I look back at all of those runs, and I actually watched every race that we did, and I think the evolution of what we were doing, even to the point when we won that first one, 4 years ago. It was during the COVID year, and I thought we were sculling great. I actually look on the video now, and it was kind of guts, it was effort, it was determination. Don't get me wrong, they were really good scullers, but it was that first one getting it over the line, and I think that gave such confidence and belief for the next time and the next time, and the whole thing's just evolved. And the product, if you watch the 2 finals this year, the Queen Mother final and the Prince of Wales final, it wasn't just the technique that I was proud of. It was the way we won. We won with the Queen Mother. We won against a German crew that had just come back from the World Cup and got a bronze. So it was a very, very good standard. And there was crews in there that have qualified for the Olympics or narrowly missed out from the Olympics. So the standard was really good, especially as, we're a club-based crew with guys that haven't made the team. So everyone in our boat has not made the national team. That's why they're here. And the way we won the final was with grit and determination. We sculled well, but it's the grittiness, which I think was a product of the 4 years and the training. We're very close as a team as well, very close as a sculling group. Well, actually, I think that's what Matt's brought in. The sculling group isn't separate anymore. I think that the whole men's squad, it's a lot closer. And, we're obviously trying to outdo each other on percents on all the timepieces, but that's something that Matt has brought in. It's definitely, the men's squad is a lot tighter now. Right at the beginning, it was scullers versus the sweep, and it's like, don't talk to them.
Yeah, I remember that bit. That's what it was like when I was there.
Yeah, but no, Matt's changed that now. But yeah, going back, the way we won the Queen Mother this year, and then with the Prince of Wales, that was an interesting boat to manage. There was lots of personal things going on in the crew, and I won't go into that, but there was, upset with families, and it was a difficult one, and we had to really patch that crew together and actually keep it going. There was times it wasn't performing. That Prince of Wales crew, I don't think the crew will mind me saying, it wasn't always where I left it. We'd worked, we'd achieved something big, and the next day it might not be there. That was a crew that I definitely had to carry through the event. We actually, in the first round, with no disrespect to the crew we were racing a crew from Agecroft, and it turned out to be one of our hardest races, because I don't think we were mentally prepared for it, and Agecroft just they never let us go, they never let us relax, and I don't think we were totally mentally prepared for that on the start. So then the Prince of Wales gives you a day off. And actually, fortunately, that day off just gave me a little bit more time to look at the competition, understand what we were doing and who we were racing. And we're actually, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have really noticed how good a German crew was that we were racing on the Thursday. And I watched them and I thought, they look really fast. So I fed that back to the crew, and nobody had been talking about this crew. And I fed it back to the guys. And I said, I think they're really good. And everyone did their research. Well, there's just loads of kids that went to Junior Worlds last year. And I was like, I know, but I think they're really quick. And so I got the guys up for it. And bearing in mind, it was after it wasn't such a great start to the regatta, and we didn't have such a good row on the first day. And I got them mentally prepared. And I said, right, we're gonna have to go here. And anyway, we went off the start. Our speedo said we're doing 1:17, which is pretty quick.
Yeah.
We were 2.5 lengths down at the barrier.
Wow.
Honestly, watch the video. Watch the video. I think it's the Thursday, Prince of Wales, Leander versus a German crew. I can't remember who it was. But we were 2.5 lengths down. And it was a very different Henley for me this year because it was so cold. I was going on my bike. I didn't go in the launch once. I was going on my bike to collect their kit. So I collected their kit and just moseyed my way back up. And I think I was usually about the barrier, carrying a massive bag of wet kit. And I couldn't believe what I saw. I was like, right. And I was just like, gotta go, guys. Gotta go. Anyway, by Forley, I think we'd had it to about a length down. And then we had a really big third 500 and we managed to go through them. But being the other side of that was a mixture of euphoria, but also like a bit of shock that what have we just, I remember Beachy rang me. Like, don't do that to me again. I'm like, don't do it to you. Like, it was terrifying for everyone. And since we found out that German quad must have gone off doing 1:15s. Crazy. Yeah. So watch that race. That was interesting. And then that was a bit of a shock. And then we went through the semi-final. And I think that was really the bit that ignited us, that everyone must have thought, this isn't right. And we came through it. And then the semi-final, we sculled a lot better. But in the final, we're racing a crew called Skull. And Skull have got real pedigree. And bearing in mind, we're trying to do this with my second fastest quad, which is about 10 seconds slower, usually, than the Queen Mother. So we knew that the Prince of Wales was going to be difficult this year. And we had to race. We knew we had to put together our complete race in the final. And bearing in mind, I'm still, at this point, nursing people through the regatta that have gone through quite a lot at home. And in that race, we just said, I did my homework with both quads. I went through previous results. I looked at the opposition with the help of Beachy, and we were like, right. And we identified that the crews we're racing in the final are not fast in the third 500. It was proven at World Cups. It was proven when we raced them again. Really fast out of the blocks, but they didn't want to work hard through the middle, but then they have a quick finish. So we dedicated a whole race plan. Bearing in mind, we were both on the Buck station as well, which nobody ever says it, but you'd probably rather be on the other station, right? There's a lot of rain going down, and we just knew we had to win the middle. We had to win the middle of the race, and you'll see in the final, we absolutely dominated the middle, but it still ended up being close, even though the commentators were saying, Leander owned this, they've absolutely done this, you've broken these. Nah, few more strokes and it would have probably been level. So we worked pretty hard through the middle, and to be there, the other side of those two races. But it's the grittiness that was the product of the whole 4 years, 5 years even, because even before it got going, there was a few rough rides where we didn't quite get it. But the squad now in the men's squad, that gritty determination, led by Beachy, it's cool. Like the medals are made, away on camp and the early mornings and stuff. But it became second nature that when we were in trouble, we stuck together as a pack and we came through it.
Yeah, it's really impressive to hear like a whole bunch of those things. I think we've talked before about, I think crews that win Henley have to get better through the event. I think that's something again like that you can, a testament to your team is how much they can pull together and make changes. Like I said, you can have your plan written down, and then HROF can decide that that's not how it's going to go.
They were impressive, so I'm not belittling what they did. They just, the early races, you kind of want to put them to bed and you want to go and recover for the next day, but they made us race honest,
Yeah. And also I think just going back a bit and like listening to what you said about moving on from Bedford London, I think that's awesome. I think there's a lot of rowers that assume coaches just know everything. I think as a rower, I especially look back and just think like, oh, well, he's my coach, and obviously he knows everything. And it's like, that's not the reality. Like coaches are also learning and trying stuff. And, like you said, it takes sacrifice to get up to the top end. And I think as a rower, when I joined Leander, I deferred my entry to uni. I lived in a 3-bedroom flat with 5 lads. I had a job at the cinema. I was making like 150 quid a week, so I didn't have much time to do any more than that. Like that's the sacrifice, and I think like it's cool from a rowing and a coach's perspective to see that you were willing to do that as well to improve yourself and like keep having that same mentality. And you said take a pay cut, not have as much money, like those kind of things, they do make a difference. And I think that's really cool to see. And again, then coming forward into like you looking at, right, how are we going to, we've got this outside lane. It might not be favorable. These crews are really, really fast. Right, let's go back. Let's get into the detail. Let's work. Let's find out what we can do. Let's make a plan.
No one's changed in your lane, right?
Yeah.
And you find out on the draw what side you're going to be.
Yeah.
There is no point spending the whole week worried about it. Let's go and explore that station. Let's go and see where we have advantage. Yeah. And let's actually take the race to them when it's our advantage. And we just literally defend and fight for our lives in the bit where it's clearly not our advantage.
But yeah, you've put that work in. You've developed a squad that has the trust in you. And when that point comes and you say, right, guys, what we're actually going to do is work harder than you've ever worked through the middle. And we're just going to hope that we can hang on. We're going to hope that the fitness and everything else is there. And that's got to be buy-in, right? Like your whole crew has to believe that. You can't have 3 people putting their hand in the fire and one person going like, oh, but I want to make sure I can get to the finish. So I think that's, sort of a testament both ways from the squad that you've built and from what New Beach are doing. Like, it's impressive to get. It's cool.
It's also like really interesting to see all the different aspects of coaching that rowers and other people might not have an idea about. Like, oh, okay, here's a coach. You will tell them, row a bit harder, do this technically. No one talks about the psychological preparation, the mental, the hours that you're putting in after. Like you just outlined during Henley exactly what you had to go through in order to make that event. It's like, I think it's really easy for people from the outside to be like, oh yeah, Leander just won another quad. And like not really put a bit more like to that story and see like exactly just how much effort still goes into like every exercise.
Yeah, this year meant a lot. I think out of all of it, there to pull off a double or winning both quads was pretty epic. I mean, I gave, I set the stall out quite early with the guys in Beachy that this is something we want to do. But actually to go and do it is pretty cool. And I definitely lost my cool at the end. I had a very, very strange reaction to actually knowing that as a squad, the athletes had achieved it. I'd never had that reaction before. It was just seeing, so many athletes having achieved something really special and knowing I'd been a part of it was pretty cool. I took myself off for a minute.
Yeah, there's a lot of emotion. Again, I think that's something we've talked about, trying to, when we speak to coaches, like make athletes realize that they're humans and the emotions there, and they're also, working really hard. They're also stressful. I've talked about this before on the podcast, but the first time I pushed a crew off that I coached, I was like, oh shit. Like that's normally the point as a rower where you're nervous, and you're like, okay, now I'm in the boat and I'm going to do my thing. The nerves will peak again at the start line, but like it's kind of that build up. And then as a coach, like, actually, it's that point that I push them off and I can't faint or do anything anymore. And not only like, as a rower, I want to win, but as a coach, I want all of my athletes. I felt like almost it was like 30 times more pressure because I felt that pressure from all those athletes. I went and wrote an email to my school coach and was like, I'm so sorry that I think as an athlete, you're so busy thinking about your nerves and your stress. And you sometimes think it's like, the coach doesn't go through that as well, but they do. And like, that's, if you didn't, it wouldn't be worth it, right? Like, that's part of it. That's the draw, is that it means a lot to everyone who's involved.
Yeah, I said earlier that it was a very different Henley. It was, it's mad. It was beautiful the week before, and it was beautiful the week after. But just Henley week was awful weather. It was not just raining, but it was actually cold. So it was the quietest Henley I've ever known. I feel sorry for all the stalls. I doubt they took as much money, but I think the cafe in the enclosures must have probably taken the most money. But yeah, it was a very different Henley for a coach as well. And I guess from the athletes, you even look at semi-finals, the towpath is empty. No one's out there. So that's an area I really looked at making a positive this year, and making sure that, when it was quiet, the crowd could be heard a bit more. And so, I positioned people down the course. Just cheering, nothing more technical than that, but trying to make the quiet bits where people knew our race plan, make the quiet bits our bits, and make us own our own river. And I was get the nerves bit, that never goes away. I wish to God it did, but it never goes away. So I got into a little routine of, I'm going to go and collect the kit. And, but this year, we had quite a lot of cruise racing. So it was very different. You always assume on that big race, that Henley final, you're going to be there to get your crew voted and stuff. And no, I had to manage things and do race chats a little bit earlier, and leave them to their own devices a little bit. And it might actually be on times. I saw them then. The next time I saw them was on the start line, because I got voted. I run the gap year program, and those guys had a good Henley and just narrowly missed out on the semi-final. But on finals day, we had other boats racing, the visitors for the other boats racing. And, I'm the men's coach. I'm not just the sculling coach. They're just the crews that I look after. But I've got a responsibility to get out there and get the kit for the Grand Day, get the kit for the visitors for, get the kit for the all of those boats. And those responsibilities don't go. So I wasn't actually there to push the boat off the landing stage and say, your final good luck, because I'm just so busy doing all the other stuff. So meticulous planning this Henley, loads of athletes that need the same amount of attention as everyone. And so Matt and I were just like passing ships.
Let's talk a little about building systems.
Yeah.
And you said that when you first won Henley 4 years ago with the quad, you could already see the difference between the standard of sculling now and the standard of sculling then. Still victorious back in 21, I think. But how does that process work? And like in your eyes, when you're looking over after athletes over like an extended period of time, how do you bring them together, or how do you set out the base? So for example, you might start working on things now that you'll only reap the rewards of in like 3 years time, let's say. What does that work like for you?
Well, first of all, you said when I won Henley, and definitely it's the athletes doing it, not me, which made that pretty clear. When they win Henley, and I'm just there to support them. But in terms of building a system, I think you've just got to, I'm really fortunate. I have not done this on my own. Like, I've got Beachy there all the time. Rob Morgan does quite a lot with the sculling team as well. And I'm following in good footsteps from the amazing work Rossi does. And, the coaching team at Leander, we work really tightly together. Rich Chambers, and hopefully he comes back after the Olympics. We work pretty well, and we communicate in the break. So many eyes as well. But you just got to identify a couple of key areas. And this year, we did a lot of stuff, always boating 2 quads side by side. So we have a common theme for the week. And going back to 4 years ago, that was a very difficult one because it was during COVID. There was a lot of time where we couldn't. We were in singles a lot of the time. So of course there was reasons why that one might not have been the prettiest to the eye. But actually, I think that look back on it, I think we did a great job, because we only got in that boat about 2 weeks before the event, because that year the under 23s was before Henley. So, we didn't have as much time for that one. Then the next year, I think we were a little bit faster, and we ended up racing Reading in the final. And then the following year, I think we evolved even more. That was the toughest Prince of Wales event that I knew, because we had to go against 2 Dutch crews. So that was the third one. That was Rory Costo, Miles Devereux, and Rowan Law. And we had to race 2 Dutch crews, one in the semi-final and one in the final. And both of those crews had had a humdinger at the Hollenbecker the week before. And I think they did 5:41, 5:42, which is pretty dirty. Right? And that's, so when people say, Prince of Wales and Leander win it all the time, you've got to look, so this year, I've already alluded, it wasn't straightforward, right? Some good competition. And, the Hollenbeck is quick, so I understand that. So maybe add a few seconds on for reality, but still, that's a good standard, right? And we were down all the way. So it was the first time that I, as a coach, was coaching a Henley final that we won, but we were losing. And it was just that middle of the race. Again, the timing of the hits, the way that we were driving, the timing and the cohesion, but under pressure. So, when you're mid camp and you've done 20k in the morning and you're just about to go and do another 20 with some UT1s in it, on top of 100k already in the last few days. And that is what made us win through the middle of the race. And, so when we came through both Skull and then Hollandia, and we won, it was almost like mirror image of each other. They led us out and we rode them through the middle. We actually ended up winning by clear water, which goes to show how good those quads were, the times that we've said from Hollenbecker. So that was a real win. So that third one was really special, because I'm in the launch thinking, oh God, here we go. But then, and that gave us the confidence to move on to this year. If we hadn't done it so well last year, then maybe we wouldn't have done it this year. And it scares me to think how much we backed ourselves to maybe do 2 quads this year. Hats off to Beachy for running the program, though. We've got enough scullers to do that. But you look back on it, we could have played safe, could have just gone for the one event. But actually now we've got 8 quad scullers with medals.
Yeah, I think that's also like a testament to what you're doing and like pushing and looking for more. And like you said, you could have played it safe, but safe doesn't get you further on. And if you want to push high performance in the top end, then you have to take risks. And
now's probably a good time to say that our mission statement is to get people into the national team. That's what we do. That's the remit at Leander. That's why people join us. People come to Leander because we really, really do want them to make the national team. We treat every athlete as an individual. They don't just come to row. We don't want them to come and row for Leander just for Leander's gain. We genuinely want to develop that individual. And it might be they might not win Henley, but they might make the national team. That is what we want to do. That's why we work so closely with GB Rowing. It's about the individual. So these guys, it was the right thing for them to do, to step up in the Queen Mother, because they've all got aspirations to be at Caversham in September, and train for the next 4 years. So it's about pushing on the athlete as well and making sure that they can perform. And I've already had individual meetings with quite a lot of those athletes, what they're going to do over the summer, how they're going to do it. A couple of those guys struggling to get the cutoff to go to the next trial. So we've got a special program for them. They can't quite go on the beach like everyone else and put their feet up. Some of the guys are in the Project LA group. They're off to a viz. So there's much more than Leander trying to win Henley. It's about developing those guys for the future. We had actually one of the guys could have been in the 8, but he won the Head of the River in the 8, Tobias. And actually, but he wants to be a sculler. He wants to go for the next for the next Olympics as a sculler. So we respected his ambitions. So he went in the quad. I'm sure Peachy would have probably liked him in an 8. He's pretty good at it. The president of Oxford, winning the boat race. But it's very much about the athlete and getting them to where they want to get to.
Yeah.
So you've got to support them a bit more than just what Leander wants.
Yeah.
That's a brilliant mission statement. And you guys obviously have been supplying guys to the national squad like hotcakes in there in the last few decades, and it's great to see that. And particularly in the sculling team, if you want to do any high performance sculling, like Jack Bowman said it in our episode we did a year ago, he was like, if you have half a brain, you know where to go. There's only really one place to go to do that. But you talked about obviously coaching sculling. Before that, you were coaching sweep as well. In your opinion, what are some of the most major differences between the two, and in particular coaching the two?
I think let's look at the similarities first of all. I think it's the sequencing and the timing of the backs. I think that's the big thing for me. Being patient with the handle. I think that's a big thing we've moved on in the last 12 months. Just making sure you're locked and loaded before you try and move the handle. Being really still with the bodies, making sure that you got your sequencing and the handle doesn't stop until it's back over the knees. Giving the boat time, making sure you're not getting ahead of the boat, getting the rhythm right. For me, it's ultimately about timing the peak force with both sculling and sweep. I actually think they're not too different. This year I was coaching one session sweep, next session sculling. It's not a problem. I did quite a lot with the visitors four that one, and I literally would have the visitors four next to the Prince of Wales because they were really similar speeds, and because Beachy was off at the World Cup and stuff, so they literally had those two boats side by side, and I could say the same message to both boats. I wasn't treating them any different because it was one was sweep, one was sculling. It was pretty standard stuff coming through. Keep the body still, be patient through the drive. Make sure we're opening those backs together. I didn't see it as too different, really.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking you were going to say, because, in my opinion, especially if you started with sculling, it's a bit easier to switch over to sweep. Effectively, the only thing that's different is how you're guiding the oar into the water, but what the body's supposed to be doing is basically a carbon copy. And I think there's sometimes maybe people can overcomplicate the differences between the two, but I actually think obviously they're more similar than not, and it's the same sport, except rowing's called rowing and sculling's called sculling, but it's all the same thing, really.
I think that we're fortunate because we have so much time with the athletes. We shouldn't be teaching them technique in the run up to the race. Matt Beachy, he says it brilliantly. He says, this close to the race, Ali and I will become managers. So I'm not screaming and shouting technical things across the river. We've had years preparing for this moment. A year with some, but still, that's a lot of time. We shouldn't be screaming and shouting stuff. They should know what they do. And we're also blessed to have amazing athletes. Matt and I are not trying to be on this podcast trying to say we're like the gurus and, the crews are fast because of us. No, that would be nonsense. The athletes are good. We've recruited good athletes. They're there. And a lot of hard work has happened in the run up to it. So we turn into a managing role as well, because these guys, they know how to row. They know how to scull. So we're just trying to keep them on track. Sometimes it could be as simple as really good. Let's go again. And just keeping them honest. I think that in the run up to Henley, most coaches will hear this and totally understand this. The towpath's awful. There's people walking dogs. There's how do you cycle with those crews? You can't. And also, you should have confidence that you don't need to do that there. The work is done then. So in the run up to Henley, when the towpath's really busy, get a bit of video. Go and stand at the start. Go and watch them do their start. But I spent more time on the road, the Remnant Church Road, cycling back and forwards, trying to avoid the chaos than I did actually. You can watch the race. That's amazing. The YouTube footage is amazing. Martin Cross, you guys, all of the commentary, Mark Hunter, Paskey, the commentating is incredible. And actually, you can do a lot of your coaching by watching the first round, then the next round. There's different ways you can do it, but I don't think in the 11th hour you're teaching them to row. You're sticking to a plan, and you're either saying, well done, you did it, or you didn't really do what you said you did. And that was the coaching running into it. And especially as I was coaching 3 or 4 boats, you definitely turn into a manager. Yeah. But there's a time in the year where you've got to work hard. And I don't think you should be trying to coach hard in the last couple of weeks. Yeah, it just, give the crew confidence that they know it, they're ready, and we're just getting them ready for the fight.
Yeah, I was trying to think I think it might have been Rob Morgan who said this to me, but it's like the coach that when the boat is going on the water is going, well, remember, like, hands around the back, remember we were. So you're not saying that for them, you're saying that for you, because you're nervous and like, actually what you're probably doing is making the crew double, check themselves or think, oh, Jesus, does he not think we can do it?
Yeah. Believe us.
Yeah. So there's like, that actually like becomes like a negative as opposed to a positive, and thinking that thing of like, oh God, don't forget this, don't forget that. Yeah. And I think that's really interesting. Like, obviously, like you say, I can't take any credit. These athletes are fantastic, but like, that's the role at a high performance center it's about that last 1%, 0.5%, 0.1%. There's coaching at a school, J14s who just started, you get to see these huge increases, which is fun to see. And it's a fun challenge, but it's a different challenge. In what you guys are kind of trying to push right at the top end. And it's interesting to hear you're still like looking at different ways to improve, still thinking, okay, well, I can't see much racing, but I can watch it on YouTube and things like that. Like, it's a never ending process, really. And I think, like, in order, if you're standing still, you're going backwards, right? Like, in order to win 4 in a row, you have to get better every single year. Yeah. You can't just be like, "Yo, we've got this now, cool, like, we're done." Like, no, you have to go again.
Yeah.
How do you resist the temptation to do the same thing again every year? Like, where do you look for those marginal differences? How do you fine tune your coaching line to like look for something that someone with 99.9% perfect technique can still do better?
I think you got to respect the event as well. I think that maybe guys that have won it a few times, maybe if they're obviously aiming to make the national team, and if they don't make the national team, maybe they look to try and do a double or something like that, and try to compete again, or take on the national quad at Henley. But I think that a lot of guys who just come through that will be part of that system again. I think just to win the Prince of Wales, we've got a very new look crew coming in. Lots of guys will be joining the Project LA team. As discussed, maybe people at the Olympics are going to call it a day. Hopefully with medals. Got them 25 Leander athletes at the Olympics, and we're so proud of them. Many of them might think the time's right to call it a day. So that's why we had such a strong squad this year, because we're housing many athletes for the future. So I think that we'll have a very new look squad next year. So we're going to have to start again. We'll maybe have a couple of faces, but they will have as big a part to play in the new generation as I will, because there's a way of doing it now. What I should say, actually, and I'm really proud of this one, is two guys that won Henley came through our junior program. So Stephen Hughes, he won the Cream Lover, and Miles Deverett, both came through his junior program, and they are winning Henley, and that's pretty cool, right?
I think Joe Willis also his first strokes.
Joe Willis, yeah.
I remember Lavinia.
He wasn't in the crew this year, just
yeah. Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So yeah, many people have come through it, but like this particular year,
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the athletes that don't make the national team and are staying on. They've got a really big part to play in it, because they've got to teach new kids. Now we've got some kids coming through the junior program now, very talented kids, big, strong kids. If they want to win Henley, they're going to have to step up and learn the way that we do a warm-up, learn the way that we conduct ourselves on and off the water, learn the way that we spin quick and go, adapt to the training. That's a big part of what Leander do. We get people ready for the national team, and we train in a way that would get people ready for the national team. The sheer volume of training is something on its own. It's one thing to go fast in a boat, but Paul Stannard and the Olympic team, they need people that can train 3 times a day and be durable. So we've got to get athletes ready for that. If someone got invited to go, but they can't handle the training, they'll be back straight away. or they'd be broken. So what Beachy does with his program, he runs a program which is a little bit individual because you've got to put his bit on it, but it's getting athletes ready for Sierra Nevada camp, going up the mountains with the national team. Those training programs are really hard, and you've got to get athletes ready for them. That's why we do so many miles. That's why our weights program, that's why we work so closely with GB, just get athletes ready for it. So there's a lot goes on behind the scenes. We're not just banging the drum for Leander's game. We're actually working in conjunction with GB as well, getting athletes doing the right things, getting the right medical testing. Getting the next generation are ready to go.
Yeah, that actually makes your results at Henley more impressive, because again, from like rowing when I was at Leander, exactly what I was trying to do, getting into the team. So you start the season out, you're in singles because you've got to do your first trial. Then you're going to get in a pair. You might get a week out, in some random quad for fours head. And then we barely even see the 8 until, 3 weeks before ace head. And then there's another trial, and then there's final trials. And then quite often, the ladies plate 8 would be set just before we went on camp, or we did finally in 2015, seat racing was after Met before we went to Aniola. So it's a big challenge. And obviously a few of my close losses were to American unis, who are basically in their 8 from head of the Charles, battling it out, racing. So I think it's definitely a big challenge to have all those things going in one. It might be why, Brooks, for example, having spoken to Brooks athletes and stuff, it's all about Brooks, about the Brooks team, and that's a real focus for them, and they just have that Henley focus. And probably a lot of their success has come from having that single-minded focus. So it's difficult as a high-performance club to balance those two things, I think.
Yeah, no, it's true, but it's cool, and kudos to Brooks to do a great job.
Yeah, for sure. It's good for rowing. We all want
the standards being pushed up and up and up.
Sure. Yeah.
I think every year you go, geez, I remember this event being not as good as this, and so the standards going up and up, and I just think GB rowing, we just seem to be getting better and better, which is so exciting for the future and Olympics, and even look at the schoolboy and schoolgirl system that they go off to junior worlds. When I was a kid and we did junior worlds, Germans and everyone was so much better than us, and if we could grab a bronze, then that was amazing. Nowadays, and under 23s, we just win everything. I mean, it's amazing, and credit to the system that everyone's got in place. But I just think as a nation, with the junior rowing and the university rowing, we seem to be rocking it at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I think you mentioned it briefly before, but a big part of this is recruitment. It's obviously something that's been big, Oxford and Cambridge and stuff. But I see it now. I hear there's schools are recruiting athletes. There are other universities doing it in clubs and squads. You said you're kind of heading up the gap year stuff. How does recruitment work for you guys?
Well, the gap year program is really cool. It is what it is. It's you finish your schooling, and then there's an opportunity to come to Leander, and they do a year, and we try and help them off the water as much as on. There's opportunities to do some networking with the Leander members, the opportunity to get some work experience, not to mention literally row alongside in boats with guys that are trying to go to the Olympic Games, serial Henley winners. It's an amazing thing that they just ooze. And this year they did the full training program, which at times was really hard, but actually at times it was really inspirational for the older guys. They were finding it really, really difficult. And on that camp that we were talking about, they really struggling for the next stroke, and they turn around and the gap year kids are still juggling the football and they're not going to bed. So they just became everybody's, little brothers, on the camp. And we really did love them this year. They were a great bunch. And so my job is to help them. Where are you going to go to university? Network with UK and American universities. I've got this kid. He's really good. He's really talented. Hasn't quite got this on his academics. I help them go out to the States or in the UK, visit universities, get the right choice for them. and then I'm a part of their career. So when they go to America, we've got quite a lot of guys who are registered for us who are in America. And what people don't know is that I'm on Zoom every night with them, and it's just a catch up call. How are you getting on? Is coach writing you about something, or they'll say, yeah, he told me I'm not doing this, but I don't really understand what he means. So I maybe go through some telemetry with him or go some video with them. You name it. Are you looking after yourself? Are you eating well? Yeah, this is most of my evenings. I'm sitting on Zoom with a number of athletes. Most of them come through the gap year program. And my phone goes ping, and somebody who's been in the States for 3 years, and I've been helping him, so it's just got a PB, and you just send a fire emoji back. That's kind of my world, and I really do care for these kids. Probably too much, actually. It takes away from my own children. But yeah, no, so that's, I do the recruitment, and look, we're actually not trying to recruit to have a really good gap year program. That's not the point. We want to have some talented athletes that are going to go off and blossom at university, and we can help them reach their potential. So we've got, I think, about 4 guys in the Harvard 8 this year. We had guys who are in the Washington 8, that are young, and hopefully they'll come back to the club. We're supporting them through. We're super proud of them. But there's a limit to how much we can do if they're in America. So we don't claim to be more than just supporting them, basically. But yeah, recruitment is a big part. And I do the recruitment. I go out to the States and visit the universities. So, we really do want people to come and apply. You can, if you type in row for us, it'll take you to the Leander link, and that comes straight to the coaches. We do want to hear from people. It's interesting to develop the individual. It's not just about having a big erg, it's about the whole package. Usually size is quite a big indicator on someone's success, but not all the time. So Matt Beachy's program will develop athletes and develop them for the future. So yeah, if you're interested in being a part of what we're doing, I urge you to reach out and get in contact with me or through the Row for Us link. You could be the next person winning Henley. You could be, at the next Olympic Games. Just, you don't know unless you try.
I came on the Gap Year program. I rowed at school as a junior. I loved it. Small school. We only had a squad of 8. I was like a stone heavier and 20 seconds quicker than the next guy in my school. Did a little bit of junior trialing, but didn't really get anywhere. And then just randomly, my coach, Leander, had sent like a gap year leaflet to the school. I think they'd obviously sent them all out. And he was like, oh, do you fancy having a look at this? I was like, yeah, all right. Like, we'll have a look at it. Went down for a trial weekend. They said, yeah, you're good enough. You can do it. Deferred my entry to Brooks. Never went in the end. I ended up staying after from Leander. But yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome to do. And, yeah, like you said before, when we were talking about the Thames Scarf and statue, like definitely that year was awesome. It's a great spot to do it when you don't have to have school and exams and everything. And I remember thinking that year, just like we finish training and be like, I haven't got to do any homework. we would sometimes I'd be like sat at like 2:00 in the afternoon, finish all our training. We're just sat in like the crew room or whatever, and I'd like turn to a guy and I was like, hey, this time last year I had like double French, and like now I'm just like getting ready for my 3rd session. Like it felt like such a fun time, and there was no stress or pressure on it. It was
now if I knew that, I'd kick their ass. They'd be like, right, what can you be doing? Let's go.
Yeah. We could. Yeah, there was definitely maybe some chill time, but I guess because we worked in the cinema, I quite often did evening shifts. But no, yeah, it's cool.
I like the bubble. I really do enjoy seeing the athletes, their lifestyle in Henley. Henley is like a separate place to the rest of the world.
Yeah,
you can walk through Henley in sliders.
You can't walk through Henley though. You know what I mean? Like, if you're trying to get somewhere,
but like they just. Some of them, I think, are literally in their pajamas in sliders, and just in their rowing kit, and you just like, that's not normal, right? Henley is just this bubble of all these rowers, and they live round the corner, they walk into the training, they go back and forth. They're just living their little rowing Henley life. But it's very cool. I remember those days.
Yeah.
I remember the days of like back in the day. I think like people like Tom Ford, etc. When they first joined the end, I was there at the time, and we all got a bunch of kick scooters and just kept riding into training.
Yeah.
The seniors.
Did you get banned from your kick scooter?
I got Henley College to officially ban the kick scooters because I was zooming down the hills. I don't know how we did training and that annoyed a few people. But no, to add to your point, Ali, about the gap year, I can't say enough how much fun and how much of an experience it was to go to Leander, because as far as I'm aware, someone please correct me on this, but I'm the only rowing guy from Poland that's actually ever gotten into Leander, and it was like a completely different world to what I was used to, because I did some training with the national squad in Poland, and Leander was like another level of professionalism.
Yeah.
You know what you said about how you conduct yourself on and off the water, like, you don't only teach people how to get into the national squad, but how to have the proper etiquette, how to be an elite sportsman. And you just have so much fun. And I can't imagine a better situation than just being in a club full of backpackers with amazing training facilities, but also like being around all these driven individuals, all striving towards the same goal. So like, if you're listening to this and you want to apply for the gap year program, I couldn't recommend this.
Well, it's not just the gap year program. That's a key point. We talk quite a lot about the gap year program, but it's about the guys a little bit later after university, or if they haven't even gone to university. That's bread and butter for us, really. The gap year program is just an initiative to develop some kids before university. But the bit that we really want the applications for is the slightly more senior, last year under 23s, moving into the seniors. We've actually taken on a few guys this year that have, they've not gone through the traditional routes. They've started rowing a bit later. A lot of potential there, maybe done club rowing, and they've done it to a pretty good level, and now they want to see where they can go. Rough diamonds almost, but there's definitely time. And if they've got the potential, they're certainly coming to a place that will help them achieve it.
Well, that's how Hodge and Reed started.
Yeah.
They haven't learned how to row when they were juniors. It was much later. So I think it's awesome. So yeah, it's not just about the gap year program. Definitely have a look at the end because it can offer you so much. And it doesn't matter whether you want to improve at rowing or in life or in general. It will help you get there. I do truly believe that. So let's switch over.
Other clubs are available.
But yeah,
Awesome. Should we do
some quick fire round questions?
Let's do it.
It's been a while since we did some quick fire rounds. Yeah, because we didn't do that with Kieran last week.
Nah, he's already been on.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay. Out of all the rowing venues that you've trained at, raced at, or visited, what are some of your favorites?
Bagnolas.
Yep. Expecting that. Anyone? Bradford?
Gilby, yeah. Henley on Thames, obviously.
Yeah.
I quite like Pangbourne.
So did you go and train there before Henley?
Yeah, Beachy did. I was Dorney bound.
It's so nice.
Yeah. I think Pangbourne's pretty beautiful. Radley Stretch is pretty good.
You like home water?
Temple Salot is quite nice from a purely rowing point of view. It's a bit of a concrete building on the river, but the river's huge and you can row for miles. Seville's
lovely.
Seville is good. I remember being there in a quad with Dave Curry, and our coach thought it would be a really good achievement if we rowed right to the bottom of the river and back square blades. And I think the next 2 days we couldn't move our hands. Forearms had all blown. That's when we were as juniors.
Yeah.
Cool. If you were to repeat one race or one event again when you're 60 or 70, what would it be and why? As an
under 11 singles at Stratford-on-Avon, I was 10. I think it was under 12 singles. So I was 10 and Beachy was 12. We both made the final. Earlier on in the regatta, I'd only ever coxed. It was my first race. Earlier in the regatta, I got on the start facing the wrong way. My dad had to scream from the bank, "The wrong way!" I had to turn around. We met in the final, and Beachy buggered off. Beachy beat me.
You want another go at that?
Yeah, I want another go at him.
Yeah.
I had no idea you guys go back this far.
Oh yeah,
Awesome.
Yeah. So Beachy, Ross, Dave, all of us, we literally all grew up together. So yeah, Beachy was at Worcester being taught by his dad, and I'm at Bradford and Avon being coached by Barry Taylor and ultimately my dad getting me in the boat, and everyone was there at the start. Big showdown, Stratford on Avon, over 500 metres. Unfortunately, Beachy beat.
Next time.
Next.
Let's just set it up again. You should get back in the boat.
Henley
Yeah, should I call him out now? So call him out.
Yeah, go on.
Beachy. 500 metres again. 500 metres.
I think also Henley TMV's coming up. That's 7
That's too far.
That's a bit too real, mate. That actually might happen.
Yeah, because you got to go off the start. So this is a bit off topic, but I did Henley TMV once, and I was like, oh, it's only a few weeks after Henley. I can't be that unfit or whatever. I've never blown so hard.
It's the biggest mistake, isn't it? When you we did it 2008, won Henley, did absolutely nothing but party for 3 weeks, then turn up at Nat Champs and try and race it the exact same way. Oh my God, I've never suffered like it.
No, it's great. Is that come back, the British Champs?
Yeah, so it's senior as well now. This weekend.
I was really pleased to hear that.
Yeah, I am.
I'm really pleased to hear that because from a club point of view, I get trying to qualify for Henley, and I get trying to do a couple of rounds at Henley, but you're at the mercy of the draw and how hard that event is.
The event now it's insane.
The national champs. It's really important. Yeah. It was really good. I mean, to make the final or get a medal at the national championships, it's massive. And I'm so glad it's come back.
Yeah, I think I've talked about this about Henley for a while. I think because of the history of it, there were so many clubs that aim their whole year around making Henley, but actually now it's not really that a club event, and obviously it has club levels. But I was commentating on Tuesday, and like race after race, it's foreign crew, 200 and something foreign crews. Like it's unbelievable. Like the standard is unbelievable. Like the speed of which early rounds are going down in this, it's incredible. And I think like Nat Champs is another amazing thing. And I think also it truly is a club event, because if you're involved in junior, senior, or under 23s, you're not there. So it really is like an event that club runs.
I'm a big advocate for more races that are not 2K at Dorney.
Yes. Yeah.
And I know we're talking about being at Nottingham, but my upbringing in the sport was racing shorter races, as I just described against Beachy. But, like one where you go under a bridge, it's 1,000 meters, it's 800 meters, or it's 1,500. We used to do Gloucester, Bristol, Ross, which is, the bank holiday weekend. And, you'd race one day, everyone would get in their cars, go to the next race, and it could be scratch crews, etc. But there is so much fun in that side of the sport, and I really want to bring that back. Bedford Regatta, that's an amazing regatta, Bedford Regatta. I remember I used to get kids to do it. No, it's May time. It's on the same day as Ghent. But for kids, that's incredible. You can double up, you can treble up, sometimes have about 12 races through the day. If you lose one round, you might go into the plate as you go into another. It's just getting more people loving rowing and racing, because it's only 500 meters. You can do 2 or 3 of those.
Yeah, I was used to love Shrewsbury Regatta.
Yeah,
I would enter basically within about an hour of starting. They would come across in the tannoy, like timetables off, look at who you're racing next, find them, come to the boat stage together, and we'll let you boat if you're together.
Yeah,
and it was just utter chaos. You'd be like coming in from the men's pair, and someone's from the doubles. You need to race my crew now, but the coach has got the 8 on the landing stage. Like, no, you need to get in this boat now.
Yeah, and you find the biggest person in your crew. The biggest person in your crew will go and find the opposition and say, "Can we change the time of the race?" We bet them; they're massive.
I remember just thinking, like calling work one time and just being like, there's no way I'm getting back tonight from my shift. Like, we've still got like 15 races to do, and it's 4 p.m. or whatever.
My first event at Leander was running a regatta.
Yeah.
That's amateur regatta. 1,500 meters, not quite a straight course, still, but steering. Like, I agree with you that we need to have more of us on 2K.
Yeah, imagine if you are not that fit and you wanted to go race, and then you do one of the many Dorney races, and I'm not being critical of those races. They're amazing regattas, but for this bit only, that if you hadn't done that much training, but you wanted to go and race because you love racing, you got an Old Boys 4 or something like that. The thought of going to Dorney Lake and racing over 2K over a time trial, but then you get into a repechage, or then it takes the fun out of it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, like the shorter races, they're so much more fun. And why is everything got to be 2K?
Yeah.
It's really funny you're saying this, because literally a couple of weeks ago we had Hodgie in here for part 2, and he was saying the exact same thing. He wants to also explore other areas of the sport which are more fun, because I think there's this hope to sort of expand the sport purely beyond the means of, like you said, 2K Olympic racing, because it can be so much more than that. And not everyone has to, like you said, go through the rep and everything, because you can still have a ton of fun if you go pot hunting, 800 meters, like a few of your mates. Like, I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I've got the next question, haven't I? If you could travel back in time to the age when you first really fell in love with rowing, what advice would you give that kid?
So I used to play football, and I think I was pretty good, and I was doing a lot of trials and stuff like that. And I was trying to balance the two. And there, I will answer your question, but basically I was trying to balance the two. I had this, I was playing for Bristol City, and it was quite difficult getting to training and stuff. And my parents worked pretty long hours, and it was they were getting me there after training. And I was very aware, even at a young age, that it's quite stressful. And it was, I'd already done the sport. I coxed, and I'd won the national schools a couple of times in a single. But I was 15 years old, and I walked off the football pitch. And it's funny that I fell in love with the sport of rowing whilst playing football, because I think some chavvy coach was screaming at me that I'll never amount to anything, or what are you doing? And it was at that moment I down-tooled and walked to Dad's car and went, "Come on, Dad, let's go." I went back, and I went to the Coop a few years later, and then I moved to Leander. And so falling in love with the sport, that happened the first time I ever went in a boat. But when I really wanted to do the sport was when I had to choose between football and rowing. And I was really torn, but I knew that the culture in football wasn't for me. It wasn't the game of football. I still love it. I still watch it. For me, it was the people I was surrounded by, the culture of the coaches, the gobby football players. I much preferred the people that were in the sport of rowing. And also I really fell in love with the sport because the best team wins. There isn't any flukes in rowing. You get what you put in. It's a very honest sport. I remember going to my first, so I've been doing loads of trials. I did some English schoolboy football stuff, and what I really didn't like was it was somebody's opinion whether you got in or not. Yeah. And I really didn't like that. I got read out on a list, and you lot go and stand over there. You lot go and stand over there. Get read out on the list. Right, you lot, thanks for coming by. And you're like, what? Don't get any feedback. It's just somebody's opinion watching you play football. So when I first got invited, went to a GB trial, I didn't really understand what it was about. I remember thinking, well, what should I make? I need to catch their eye. And it was my coach just went, no, it's literally going to be how fast you go. Don't worry about what you look like. It's going to be about how fast you go. And that really resonated with me, that it was like, all right, I'll just move this boat as fast as I can. And the faster I move it, the more people are going to notice me. And I quite liked the honesty of that sport. So when I fell in love with the sport, I fell in love with what the sport stands for. And I hate it, but I love it. I love that the sport is not loyalty, that you can train for 6 years and be absolutely on it. You have an injury, you have a bit of illness, and you're back. And you're not, the sport's not loyal to you. If you don't do the sport, if you don't do it day in, day out, you won't be as good at it. And okay, I love that and I hate that, but that's probably what makes me want to keep doing it, strive to be better. So,
what advice would you give the kid that fell in love with the sport then?
Sounds like he doesn't need any. It sounds like he worked it out by himself.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know. Keep having fun.
Yeah. It's a simple one.
I think, yeah, the loyalty thing is so interesting. I've actually not heard anyone mention that before. And it's probably the reason why there's not much casual rowing going on once you like finish your career, because it just hurts so much. But yeah, I've got a question, and it's, who are some of your rowing idols, or the people you've looked up to during or post your rowing career?
So when I was when I first came to Leander, I was 16. And I was really fortunate to be in the era of Redgrave, Pinson, Cracknell, Foster, and Ben Hunt Davis, and all those guys. It's just they were all training for the Sydney Olympics, and so how can my idols be anything other than those guys? They were total heroes, but they were also so nice to me. Jürgen coached me for a little bit, and he got me involved. And actually, on a couple of occasions when one of them couldn't row, I rowed in their boat. So to be with them and be able to debrief with them, they're just absolutely legends. I remember being invited on a senior training camp when I was only 16, and I sat at the table with all the big boys, and I can't remember which one it was. It might have been Redgrave, but I'm not trying to name drop, but it could have been. Said, "Does your food smell funny?" So I put my head down to smell it. I got a smirk on the back of the head. And before I know it, roars of laughter everywhere. And my face is covered in whatever was being served in Seville that day. And I opened it up and I was just like, okay, that's quite funny. I think I tried to do it back and push with all my might, and their head didn't even move. And it was like, yeah, nice one. Nice try.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so James Cracknell, legend, still good mates with a lot of them now. But when I say mates, I still respect their absolute legends of the sport. So.
For sure.
No, that's great to hear. And also the fact that, you got to do all of this, and like, the funny stories, that's unforgettable. We're going to need to get you back on to talk a little about that era. I think there's a bit to be explored there. Okay, I've got one last spur of the moment question. What really stood out to you from Jürgen when he was coaching you compared to what you've had before that when you were single sculling? Did he instill anything new in you?
I didn't have that much of Jürgen, but because I was fairly good and I was young, he took me under a wing a little bit, and he was just always around. He basically, every time I spoke to him after a session, he basically, Ali, you're still young, calm down, enjoy the journey. But for me, it was working a little bit with him. It was the belief from when he spoke, because he was so successful. It was just, people used to hang on his words. And if he said, you're doing a training session, you're doing the training session. And I guess I loved how the Redgraves and the Pinsons and the Cracknells, who were so successful, I loved how they still hung on his every word. And I loved how they always had his back. And all the time through it, there would never be anyone criticize. It was, he was the boss. But he earned his respect.
Yeah, that's pretty remarkable. I was just going to say before we finish as well, last question for me. What advice would you have for a young aspiring coaches?
Oh, yeah, great question.
Don't try and get to the top too quick. Then I sincerely need that. And I'm not saying this for any hidden meaning or anything like that. So if anyone's hearing this and the thing I'm talking about, them totally not.
Don't come after my job.
No, I just think people want to coach the national team too quick, and I actually think some people get there and they actually don't know the sport, and so go take the time, do the layers properly. There's massive parts of the sport. Boating a J14 Octo, really getting to the landing stage, carrying a J14 Octo because the children aren't carrying the boat, getting to the landing stage for the final of national schools and realizing that you've got no seats in the boat. So you run back to the trailer and you're like, where the hell are the seats? And then you've got, these parts, every layer really matters. Coaching a junior system where your number one rower, the linchpin of the whole crew, says, Mum, Dad says that I can't row this week because I've not done very well with my recent exams. So you have to smooth that one over. You have to create a timetable where that person strike the balance, get the parents involved. Right, okay, can they row if they do this? Okay, that'll work. there's so many different avenues of the sport which arm you with layers. An athlete which having to sit down and having to tell somebody they've not made the boat when you're really close to that athlete, you've helped them. You maybe even coached that person to win Henley the year before, but they've not made the boat. There is so many different layers of being a coach that takes time. And when the time comes eventually, and I'm not speaking like I'm the Messiah, because I'm totally not, I'm still on the way up. But when the time comes where I do sit in front of a crew for an Olympic final, because that is where I hope to be one day, I will be armed with so many different layers that will make me better at doing that job.
Damn it. Absolutely awesome advice. And Ali, based on what I've basically heard you talk about today, I believe one day you will get there. And I wish that you get there in the timeline that you'll be happy with. So no. Thanks so much for coming down to the for a chat. It's been awesome to be able to pick your brain and just hear the vast amount of experience that you've accumulated from all your different parts of the career. I think it's really inspiring, and I think it's important to also talk about what goes on behind the scenes, because like I said, it could be something really easy to finish out. I just want to do this when no, actually to realize how much work, preparation, and research and strategy here is. I think it's very eye-opening. And obviously there are so many more things that we can talk about at some point. We'd love to have you on again.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been amazing. I appreciate your time.
Oh no, and yours definitely. Yeah, really enjoyed it. Still hearing, learning new things every time I sit down with people. And I think you brought some knowledge that we haven't heard before. And I think for rowers and coaches, a lot of stuff for people to take away. So yeah, been awesome to talk.
Thank you.
Cool. As for today, this concludes everything for this episode. So on that note, easy there.
Cue the music.